4 medical practices in order to go on tour with Michael Jackson. And so it seemed fair and appropriate to him in those instances, if his services were terminated in those instances, that he would not be required to refund that portion of the month.
Have we covered all of the contractual changes that Dr. Murray requested during your June 18th telephone conversation with him?
The material ones. We did talk about other provisions in the contract, though.
Generally, you incorporated the changes that we've discussed, and did you create an additional draft or a final copy to send off to Dr. Murray for his signature?
On that day, I revised the contract. I emailed it to Dr. Murray, and he called me again with further revisions on the 23rd.
On June 23rd, did you have a conversation with Dr. Murray regarding any medical equipment that was to be a provision in the contract?
That conversation was on June 18th.
Let's go back to June 18th. I'd like to discuss the medical equipment. Did you have a conversation with Dr. Murray regarding medical equipment to be included as a provision in the contract with him?
I did.
And what was that conversation?
There was a provision in the contract that identified certain equipment that I understood Dr. Murray had identified. And I had put that information into the contract. I wanted to know why he needed that medical equipment, so I asked him.
What medical equipment are you referring to?
Well, there's a provision in the contract that identifies different equipment, including a cardiopulmonary resuscitation machine, a CPR machine. And I asked Dr. Murray, why do you need a CPR machine? And we had a conversation about that.
Did it seem unusual to you that a private physician was asking for a CPR machine? Is that why you asked him about it?
That's 2 questions. Could you just refine it?
Ms. Jorrie, why did you ask Dr. Murray about the CPR machine that he requested in his contract?
Because I wanted to make sure that Michael Jackson was healthy and didn't have a heart condition. And so I was just drilling the doctor about that to find out, well, why would you need a CPR machine? And then he answered.
Let me stop you there, please. Did you ask him that specific question, Dr. Murray, why would you need a CPR machine in the contract?
In substance, yes.
And what was Dr. Murray's response?
He said that when Michael was performing at the O2 Arena, he will be putting on extraordinary performance, and we talked about Michael Jackson and his amazing abilities. And he told me that because of that, given his age and the strenuous performance that he would be putting on, that he needed to be sure that if something went wrong, that he would have the CPR machine, to which I asked, wouldn't there be such a machine available to you at the O2 Arena? And he said that he wouldn't want to take a chance that that machine might not be available to him in the event of an emergency. He also told me it was customary.
Did you ask Conrad Murray about Mr. Jackson's overall health?
Throughout my conversations with Dr. Murray, he volunteered on 2 to 3 occasions that Michael Jackson was in. One time it was perfectly healthy. When I was asking about the CPR machine, he volunteered that Michael Jackson is perfectly healthy, excellent condition. We talked about the performances, what an extraordinary job he did. Yes.
An extraordinary job he did, you're referring to Mr. Jackson, correct?
Yes.
Now, on the subject of medical care, did you have a conversation with Dr. Murray regarding Michael Jackson's medical records?
I did.
Describe that conversation, please.
In my June 18 email, I sent an email to Dr. Murray requesting him, asking him if he'd be of assistance to gather medical records being requested by the insurance company that was issuing the cancellation insurance. So we then spoke on the 23rd about that.
And cancellation insurance is a common practice for a tour such as this?
Yes, on a tour like this, yes.
And that would be insuring in case there was some reason the concert didn't take place, correct?
You insure different risks. You insure advances to the artist, show expenses, production costs. In this case, under our contract with Michael Jackson, we were getting insurance in all those areas.
So you asked Conrad Murray to assist you in obtaining Mr. Jackson's medical records for purposes of completing insurance information, correct?
Yes, although it was really assisting Michael Jackson. That was part of his job.
So it was his responsibility to obtain or provide the insurance information, his background insurance, correct? Background information?
Yes.
What was Conrad Murray's response to your request?
We spoke about it twice.
Let's start with the first time.
Okay, the first time I wasn't certain of the full detail of what was needed, so we talked about what I knew. And I told him that I understood that the insurance carrier was asking for a 5-year medical history of Michael Jackson. Could he please work with Michael Jackson to help him gather that information? And he said he'd be happy to help and that I should provide him with more details of exactly what was needed in an envelope and deliver it to Michael Jackson's home in Bel Air. He also told me that he had been Michael Jackson's personal physician for only 3 of the 5 years. And because Michael was in such good health, he had very few medical incidents during those 3 years, so his medical records would be very tiny.
Now, those medical records that would be very tiny, those were the medical records of Conrad Murray's treatment of Mr. Jackson. Is that accurate?
That was my presumption.
In addition to asking Conrad Murray to assist you in providing 5 years of medical records for Mr. Jackson, did you also discuss with Dr. Murray that he could be in touch directly with the insurance broker?
That was my follow-up email to him, and then our conversation the next day on June 24th.
Did you provide Dr. Murray with Bob Taylor's information so that Dr. Murray could speak with Mr. Taylor directly?
I did.
Did Dr. Murray offer to assist in gathering all of that information and providing it to whoever needed to be provided to?
Yes, he did.
Have we covered all of the June 18 provisions that you discussed with Dr. Murray?
The material ones. We did talk about where he was licensed to practice, and
And what did he tell you?
He told me that he was licensed to practice medicine in California, Texas, Nevada, and Hawaii. That led to a revision to the contract. There's a representation in the contract where he represents where he's licensed to practice medicine. I had made a mistake in the first draft. I put Honolulu. I don't remember why or how I did that, but we corrected that in the second draft.
Very well. Now, turning to June 23rd, you had a telephonic conversation with Conrad Murray on that date?
I did.
And what was the purpose of your conversation with Dr. Murray on June 23rd?
2 purposes. The first purpose was Dr. Murray had a couple suggested revisions to the contract, and he and I spoke about the medical records that I had asked him in my email to provide.
Let's start with the provisions that he requested. Was it a change or a deletion? What was the substance of his request regarding the contract?
Well, 2 of the revisions we've discussed. One was the revision where he asked that the term be changed from September 30th, 2009 to March 6, 2010, and I've already relayed that conversation.
So that was a follow-up by Dr. Murray concerning that provision?
That was the conversation we had
I
where we
understand.
discussed that change, and I made that change. And then we also discussed redating the beginning of the contract dated as of May 1st, and then I dated the signature June 24, and then finally the other material thing that we discussed was in Section 1 of the contract. It describes the services that Dr. Murray was going to perform, and there was a place in there that said services reasonably requested by the producer would be services he would perform. The producer was AEG Live Productions, and he said that should be the artist. And I said, you're absolutely right. That should be the artist, not the producer. You're the physician for the artist. And so I made that change.
You also indicated that you had a conversation with Dr. Murray on June 23rd regarding medical records.